Okay, for those of you that don't have maybe a pair of denim to mend, okay, here's what we were working on, is some sort of creative mending techniques where we're using an old pair of denim, patching up the hole with maybe scraps of denim. And I understand that maybe not everybody has a pair of denim that needs repaired, or even has like a spare pair of denim to rip up to use as a repair. So we can do this using our sewing squares. So what you're going to do is the same thing. We're going to sort of cut out that mock hole. I'm just going to fold it in half and cut a square. Okay, folded it in half. All right, so that's my mock hole. I'm just finding, you know, whatever I have in my house, a contrasting color so you can see it. But please note, if you don't have any other colored fabric, you can use your same fabric. So here's the square I cut out. I'm going to use it to cut out my next square. Let's see. Cut this hunk off. This out of the way. And with this, I want to cut about, you know, an inch, maybe half an inch outside of that original patch. Okay. So I'm going to put that underneath, kind of center it around my hole. I'm going to baste it in place. Let's see, I'm going to pin it in place first. This is a little easier to do also because you're not working in a leg of a pant. Okay. I'm just going to baste this in place. So I'm going to get contrasting color of thread, my needle. Okay. This is my needle threader. I'm going to insert the tip of that into the eye of my needle. I'm going to take the edge of that thread and insert it into that threader and go ahead and pull that through my needle. Okay, so if you got one of these with your hand sewing kit, that's what it is, that's what it's for. And I'm not too worried about knotting this. I'm just sort of basting this in place. So I'm just going real quick up and down. This is a temporary stitch. I'm going to pull it out later, so there's no rhyme or reason to it. It's just to hold this patch in place. While I do my decorative sewing. Okay, if you need ideas or inspiration, you could always look online, look at mending. There's a really great book that, of course, I'm blanking on the name, Mindful Mending, maybe. For some reason, I thought it was called The Art of Mending, but it is not. I'll link it in our Canvas page. This one, I'm going to do just more linear, random lines. I have some other inspiration I found, actually from my husband, with one of his clients looking to do this sort of hand-sewn look on their garments. I don't have a picture to share, but like I said, I can link it up in our Canvas page. Okay, so I'm just going to put a couple extra stitches here, just like that, okay? It just holds it in place. Now, actually, let's see. Yeah, I think I'll still use this neutral colored thread that I've been using on all my mending. So I'm going to take big long piece and I'm going to double it up. Okay, and by doubling it up, it means I'm going to thread both of these ends through the needle. I'm just going to use my needle threader so you don't have to watch me struggle as I thread my needle. Okay, so I put two pieces of thread in there. So now, when I pull these tails together, I actually have 4 pieces of thread here. Okay, let me see if I can get this. You see that? 4 pieces of thread. So I'm going to knot that up. Double knot it. I don't want that knot coming through. Okay, and this one I'm going to be a little more linear, right? These ones, which, you know, depending on what order you're watching these videos, you either saw this or you haven't yet. So this one I went with just the first stitch, up, down, up, down, up, down, up, down, all the way up. So I created all the rows first. Here, this one's in progress, so you can kind of see it look like this. And then I'm coming back and going up each row and crossing over. Again, this is just what I chose to do. I like this look. This one is almost finished. I think I'm going to come back and do more stitching around the actual patch. We'll see. So this is one look. I did this on the back patch yesterday. Okay, so there was a hole in the pocket. Right, there is another patch back here. So I cut out the frayed part, put the patch behind it, and I just went up, down, up, down, up, down all around, and then added some decorative stitches, just up, down, up, down, up, down, nothing fancy. These are all little knots. I tied little knots on the right side of the fabric. So the same way you would tie knots on the back, right, to finish off the strands, I was just doing them in the front too. So I'd make a knot and then go back down in. So here's another fun example. Okay, so be creative with your stitches. Okay, I am going to start way out here where my patch sort of starts. And I think, like I said, I'm going to be a little more linear and sporadic with this one. Okay. So no rhyme or reason to the spacing or my stitches. Just kind of random with it. Okay. Sometimes with the 4 strands, right? See, we have this like this extra little loop right here. Sometimes with the 4 strands, they don't all want to have the same tension, so we'll just kind of pull on those until they do. Let me slide all my stuff to the side so I don't knock it off my table. Now you could draw lines on this if you don't trust yourself to be straight. I kind of always joke with you guys that, you know, 30 years of sewing, I tend to have a good eye for measurements, a good eye for straight lines. I don't really use pins anymore, but I forget that not everybody, you know, has that capability. You could draw lines that you follow. I'm actually following the grain of the fabric. I can see the weave in the fabric, and I'm just trying to, as best I can, follow that. So I'm going to kind of come in and I'm actually going to push my needle out here because that's going to be the start of my next row. And I want this row to be very, very close to the first one. but more sporadic. It's not going to follow it. So you can see I could get quite a few stitches in with one push of my needle. I don't have to go, you know, up, down, pull the thread all the way through. I can put quite a few stitches in. So with this one, I'm trying to stay about 1/8 of an inch away from my last row. I don't really mind if I go crooked. I don't really mind if it gets a little off track. I think that's what makes it beautiful. I think that's what makes it unique and creative. Okay, so I'm starting my next row here. Again, about 1/8 of an inch away. That one may have been a little further, no big deal, right? But I'm going to try to keep consistency with how far away I am. I feel like I should be playing music over this, but you guys, I'm not that fancy yet. I don't really know. Oops, what'd I do? Nothing. I don't really know how to like do different takes or edit yet, so I'm just kind of working with what I know. So I think I'm actually, what I'm going to do, I'm going to trim out that base stitch, just, you know, partially so you can see what it looks like, but also I don't need it anymore. Just this side though, right? I don't want to take it out of any other sides yet. There we go. Okay. And I think what I'm going to do, just for funsies, is I'm actually going to come back down in between these rows. Just, again, to give it some more texture, give it a little bit more creativity, right? It's a little bit easier to go down the middle of a row. Isn't that neat? I don't know. Maybe you don't like it. That's okay if you don't. Ouch, I just stabbed myself. That will happen. No amount of experience will prevent you from still stabbing yourself. Let's see, I'm gonna go here. And then I'm actually gonna tie this off because I can't, there's not enough thread to make another row, and I wanna make sure that I have enough thread to tie that off. So when I do come to the end, I'm going to grab, in this case I do have a piece of thread here I can slip it under, but if I didn't, I would just grab a little piece of fabric with my needle, right? I don't want it poking through the other side, but I'm just making the loop, and I'm putting my needle through that loop twice, and then pulling the thread taut. So by taking that little bit of thread or taking that little bit of fabric, I've just sort of made sure that the knot closes as close to the fabric as possible. And then I'm just going to pull the tail through some loose stitches and cut it off. Okay. All right, and I would continue doing those lines all the way through this patch, and that would probably be it for me. I don't think I'd go back and make, you know, anything else, nothing like this or the little plus signs on the other one. This is the way I want this one to be, okay? So if you don't have a pair of denim, any clothing that needs repaired or spare fabric, this is how you can submit your Creative Mending sample, okay? You can just use your fabric squares. And again, if you don't have a contrasting piece of fabric, just use the same fabric. It's totally fine, you guys. This could be a circle. This could be a heart. This could be whatever you want it to be. Again, this is creative, okay?